Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen and enjoy my stories every day. It was an unseasonably warm October evening, the kind where the whisper of winter's chill was just a promise on the horizon. Halloween had always been our favorite family holiday, an opportunity to escape the mundane for the magical, or the macabre. This year, excitement fizzled through the air, palpable as the crackle of autumn leaves underfoot. Max, my 7-year-old, had spent weeks deciding between costumes before settling on a pint-sized astronaut, complete with a shimmering silver suit and a helmet under his arm. I had opted for the classic vampire attire, cape, fangs, and all. Together, we were ready to conquer the neighborhood candy collection. "Look, Daddy. I bet the Johnsons have the king-sized bars this year," Max bubbled over with enthusiasm, his voice muffled slightly by the astronaut helmet now securely on his head. "You might be right, Captain Max. Let's chart a course to the stars, or at least to the best candy in the galaxy," I replied, adjusting my cape with a flourish. We shared a laugh, his bright and clear, mine tinged with the sorrow of missing one. Sandra, my wife, had called just an hour before twilight. "An emergency at the office," she said, her voice tense. "I'm really sorry, honey. I know I promised Max and you." "It's okay, Sandy. We'll manage. Won't we, Max?" I had put on a brave face, winking at our son, who nodded, albeit a touch disappointed. "Yes, but I'll bring extra candy for Mom." Max had resolved, his spirit unbroken. Thus, armed with optimism and a large, empty candy bucket, we set off into the festive night. House after house, we roamed, greeted by an assortment of ghouls, witches, and an occasional pirate, all doling out treats to the night's adventurers. The neighborhood buzzed with the laughter of children and the friendly banter of adults appreciating each other's creative costumes. As the sky darkened from twilight to an inky black, our bucket grew heavy with spoils. "Just a few more houses, Dad," Max bargained, his energy seemingly unflagging. "All right, 2 more. But then we head home," I agreed, already calculating the extra minutes of sleep we'd need in the morning. The next house on our route was oddly quiet. Decorations adorned the front yard, a tableau of tombstones and spectral figures, but no lights beckoned candy seekers. The door stood curiously ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning from within. "Maybe they're out of candy?" Max wondered aloud, his voice uncertain. "Let's just check." "Maybe they left a bowl inside the door," I suggested, curiosity piquing my interest more than I cared to admit. We approached cautiously, the soft hum of music growing louder as we neared. I pushed the door gently. It creaked open, revealing a scene lit by the dim glow of jack-o'-lanterns. That's when I saw them, 2 figures, lost in laughter and more, barely clothed, the unmistakable tale of a werewolf costume strewn carelessly across the floor. Time stalled, a grotesque freeze-frame of betrayal. It was Sandra, her laughter a dagger. The werewolf, unmasked now, was no mythical creature, just a man, all too real. "Daddy?" Max's voice cracked through my stupor. Instinctively, my hand shot up, covering his eyes. "We need to go, buddy," I muttered, my voice hollow, the festive night turned nightmare. I steered Max away, his bucket of candy forgotten in the shock of the moment. As we retreated, the laughter behind us faded, replaced by the stark, cold silence between the worlds of the known and the unimaginable. As we walked back, under the watchful gaze of the moon, I made a silent vow. Sandra's deception, so cruel and so brazen, had broken something fundamental. But as the night whispered secrets only it could keep, I promised retribution. Our paths, intertwined for so long, would diverge, and I would ensure they never crossed again. The game, as dark and twisted as the night itself, was just beginning. The morning after Halloween dawned clear and bright, a stark contrast to the darkness that had seeped into my life the night before. Sleep had been elusive. Each time I closed my eyes, the image of Sandra laughing carelessly in the arms of another man replayed, a cruel loop. Max stirred beside me on the couch, his small form curled beneath a blanket. He had cried himself to sleep, confused and heartbroken by the abrupt end to our trick-or-treating adventure and the obvious tension upon our return home. "Daddy, are we going to see Mom today?" His voice was thick with sleep and worry. "Not today, buddy. Mom's busy." The words tasted bitter, but I swallowed the lie for his sake. I set about making breakfast, the clatter of dishes a welcome distraction from my churning thoughts. The doorbell rang, slicing through the early morning quiet. Max, ever curious, bounded to answer it, but I caught him gently by the shoulder. "Let me," I said, forcing a smile. I opened the door to find my sister, Rachel, her expression a mixture of concern and resolve. "I got your text. Are you okay, Tom?" she asked without preamble, stepping inside and dropping a bag of groceries on the kitchen counter. "We've been better," I admitted, glancing down at Max who was now clutching my leg, peeking around it at his aunt. Rachel knelt down to hug him. "Hey, superstar, why don't you help me with these groceries? I bet there's some of your favorite ice cream in here." Reluctantly, Max let go and followed her to the kitchen, allowing me a moment to breathe. "Thanks for coming, Ratch. I didn't know who else to call," I confessed as we watched Max rummage through the grocery bag. "Of course, Tom. You're my brother. But what happened? Your message last night was cryptic." Rachel's voice was soft but insistent. I recounted the events of the previous night, the words tasting foul as they fell from my lips. Rachel listened, her face hardening with each sentence. "We need to figure out what to do, legally and for Max's sake," she said decisively, once I had finished. "And you need support, Tom. I can stay for a few days, help sort things out." Gratitude welled up in me. "Thank you. I think I want to file for divorce. I can't look at her the same way again." "Understandable," Rachel nodded. "I'll call David, he's a good lawyer, specializes in family law. He'll give you the best advice." As Rachel dialed, I pulled Max close, his presence a balm on the raw edges of my pain. When David arrived later that morning, the house was filled with a tense energy. Max played in his room, the sound of his video games a distant buzz against the backdrop of our serious discussion. David was a middle-aged man with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Tom, based on what you've told me, we can file for divorce on the grounds of infidelity. It's straightforward but messy. You sure you're ready for this?" "Yes," I replied without hesitation, my voice firm. "I can't forgive this. Not now, not ever." David nodded, pulling out documents from his briefcase. "We'll need proof. Any texts, emails, witnesses." "The Halloween incident," Rachel chimed in. "I can testify. I saw Sandra leave in a hurry, and Tom told me everything immediately after." "That helps," David noted, scribbling down notes. "It strengthens your case, shows premeditation, and immediate impact." The meeting stretched on, the room a capsule of strained voices and legal jargon, but one thing was clear, the battle lines were drawn. Sandra's betrayal would not go unanswered, and I would fight for my son's future and my peace. As David left, promising swift action, the weight of the impending storm settled on my shoulders. But within that storm, there was also a sliver of relief, the first step towards a new life, one where the masks were off, and the truth stood clear. The house feels colder than usual, an echo of the frost that's crept into my heart. It's been 2 days since Rachel and David's visit, and today is the day I confront Sandra. She's due home this evening after a business trip, or so her text claimed. Max plays quietly in the living room, the sound of his cartoons a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. Rachel sits across from me, her presence both a comfort and a reminder of the battle lines we've drawn. "You ready for this, Tom?" she asks, handing me a mug of coffee, her brow furrowed in concern. I nod, gripping the mug tighter than necessary. "As ready as I'll ever be." The sound of a key turning in the lock jolts us, and within moments, Sandra steps in. She pauses, her eyes flickering between Rachel and me, a flicker of confusion, then alarm, crossing her features. Tom, why is Rachel here? Is something wrong? Sandra's voice trembles slightly, her usual composure slipping. We need to talk, Sandra. About Halloween night, I say, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Her face drains of color, and she drops her bag to the floor, the sound thudding through the room. I can explain, she stammers, but I cut her off. I saw you, Sandra. With him. How long has this been going on? The words are like shards of glass, sharp and brittle. It's not what you think, Tom, Sandra pleads, taking a step forward, but I hold up my hand, stopping her in her tracks. Don't. Just don't, I snap. I trusted you. And you betrayed not just me, but Max too. Sandra's eyes well with tears, and she covers her face with her hands. It was a mistake. Just a stupid mistake. It meant nothing. A mistake. Rachel's voice is icy. You call months of lies and deception a mistake? It was only a few times. I was going to end it. I swear. Sandra's defense is weak, her voice cracking under the strain. I shake my head, disbelief and anger swirling within. A few times is too many, Sandra. You destroyed our family. There's a brief, painful silence before I continue. I want a divorce. David has already been briefed, and he will be handling everything from here. Sandra gasps, her hands dropping to her sides. A divorce? Tom, please, we can go to counseling. We can fix this. It's beyond fixing. I can't be with someone I don't trust. My response is final, the decision cemented in the hurt that's been building like a storm. What about Max? Sandra's voice breaks, her eyes darting to where our son plays, oblivious to the heartbreak in the next room. I'm filing for full custody. You can see him, but I won't let him live in a broken home, I declare, the weight of my words heavy in the air. Sandra sinks into a chair, sobbing. Rachel moves to stand beside me, a solid, unwavering support. As Sandra's cries fill the room, the reality of the broken pieces of our once happy family settles around us like dust. There's no going back, only forward through the wreckage. For Max, for myself, the path is clear, though fraught with challenges. The battle has only just begun. Days turn into weeks as the divorce proceedings drag on, each session in David's office more taxing than the last. The house, once filled with laughter and love, now echoes with the hollowness of our fragmented lives. Max clings to routine, his resilience a balm to my wounded heart. Rachel has been my rock, managing to juggle her own life while helping me keep mine from spiraling out of control. It's late afternoon, and she's preparing dinner, her movements efficient in the familiar surroundings of my kitchen. You're doing the right thing, Tom, she reassures me, as if sensing my resolve waning. It's tough now, but it'll get better. For you and Max. I nod, watching the autumn light fade early, the days growing shorter as if reflecting the shrinking of my world. A knock at the door pulls us from our reverie. Rachel wipes her hands and moves to answer it, but I stop her, a sudden need to face whatever comes through that door on my own. It's David, his face unusually grim. Tom, we need to talk. Privately. We step into the living room, the air between us charged with urgency. What's wrong? I ask, my voice tight. David hesitates, then pulls out an envelope from his briefcase. I've been doing some digging, beyond the standard for a divorce case. Something didn't sit right with me about Sandra's story, her trips, her so-called work emergencies. He hands me the envelope. Inside, photographs spill out, pictures of Sandra, not with her supposed lover, but with another man, in various settings, clearly not work-related. What is this? My voice is a whisper, dread pooling in my stomach. That's the man she was meeting on her business trips. He's not a lover, Tom. He's a private investigator. A what? Why? The room tilts, a surreal fog clouding my thoughts. David continues, Sandra wasn't cheating on you, not in the way we thought. She hired him to investigate someone she suspected of embezzling from her company. The night of Halloween, the night you saw her, they were celebrating cracking the case. The room falls silent as his words echo, a bombshell that fragments the last of my assumptions. So, the cheating, I can't finish the sentence. Was a cover. She thought if you believed there was someone else, you'd push her away, making it easier to protect you and Max from what she was dealing with. She was trying to shield you from the backlash, David explains, his tone a mix of sympathy and frustration. Anger, hot and fierce, courses through me, not just at Sandra but at the entire, twisted situation. She lied. She manipulated everything. I filed for divorce because of her games. I know, Tom. And I'm sorry to be the one to bring you this, but there's more. Sandra wants to meet. She wants to explain everything, in person. She's scared she's lost you and Max for good. The world, once black and white, now blurs into gray. I agree to meet Sandra, not sure what to believe anymore. The meeting takes place in a quiet coffee shop downtown. Sandra is already there, a shell of the woman I once knew. Tom, I'm so sorry, she begins, no preamble, her eyes red-rimmed. I thought I was protecting our family. By lying. By letting me think the worst. I interrupt, the hurt too raw, too deep. She nods, tears streaming down her face. It was wrong. But please, believe me, there was never anyone else. I love you. I've always loved you. But the betrayal, the deception, runs too deep. I can't, Sandra. I can't do this anymore. We part ways that day, the finality of our conversation hanging heavy between us. I return home, to Max, to the remnants of a life I need to rebuild. In the end, the intrigue of Sandra's deceit, though cleared of infidelity, leaves a rift too wide to bridge. Love, once unshakable, now lies buried beneath layers of lies and mistrust. As I watch Max play, his laughter a contrast to the turmoil within, I vow to make a new path for us, one where honesty and love are never overshadowed by secrets. Sandra's shadow lingers, a painful reminder of what was lost, never to be reclaimed.